talk about love, life, survival, and everything in between. I am your host, Angela D. Wharton, and if you're ready to be inspired and empowered, then let's go, y'all. Well, hello and welcome to the Angela D. Wharton Show. I am your host, Angela D. Wharton, author, speaker, founder of Phoenix Ministries. I'm also a sexual assault survivor and a women's advocate. I am super duper excited to be coming to you once again for our next episode of the show. So on tonight, I am starting a new series called 2020. And it's 20 truths I've learned in 20 years of surviving sexual violence. And on the show with me tonight, I have my husband, my Boaz, my king, Mr. Darnell Keith Wharton. And the title of tonight's show is I Too Deserve Love. And the reason why we're going to be talking about this on tonight is because this is February and it is actually Valentine's Day weekend. So there are a lot of couples who are out there celebrating on tonight or this weekend the love that they have for their significant other, for their spouse. But we've decided to have this podcast on tonight to talk about how we met. Right, babe? Mm-hmm. Say hi to the people. Hi, people. We're going to talk about, how we met, but we're also going to talk about how I told him that I am a survivor of sexual violence at the age of 14 and then at the age of 24, and just, what was his thoughts? Why did he stay? Why didn't he leave? And that sort of thing. So this is going to be a very informative and enlightening show. I'm sure it's going to be funny as well with this dude right here. But I just want to start off on tonight with just sharing a little bit about how we met. So, I'm going to start. Is that all right with you, sir?
Go right ahead.
All right, so I'm going to start. So, let's see. Back in 2002, I had an accident at my house where I was forced to stay in an extended stay hotel. So on this particular day, it was very hot outside. It was like August or something like that. And then on this particular day at the hotel, my air conditioning was broken, right? And so I came downstairs to complain. And as I was complaining to the general manager, Darnell was there and he was the assistant manager. So he saw me complaining to the other manager. I was very angry too, y'all. He was like, wait a minute, I'll take care of her. I'm like, what? Well, anyway, he did come over. He took great care of me, moved all of my stuff from the room that had the broken air conditioning into a nice, huge suite that was fit for the queen that I am. And moved all of my stuff for me and put everything back the way that it should be. I mean, all of my shoes were lined up. All of my clothes were lined up. My pots, my pans, my food, everything was put back into the new room. Very nice and very neat. And I thought to myself, oh, he's a nice guy. I think he would make a great manager of a hotel somewhere someday. But then I received a nice little note that was slipped under my door with his business card attached. And I was like, oh, what do we have here? Feeling like I was being a little stalked or something. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to call him. I don't know how I feel about this. Oh, you're shaking your head. What? So anyway, I never called him. And another note was slipped under my door. I never called him. And then flowers were left on my truck. And I was like, okay. This guy means business. Maybe I will call him. So I called him. And we spent, what do you want to say, like 4 hours on the phone that night?
About 4.
About 4 hours on the phone that night talking about everything from growing up in Baltimore City to old school hip hop, which both of us love, to break dancing, all of that stuff. I mean, it was a great, great conversation, and I felt like we had already known each other. Wouldn't you say, Pat?
I would say that.
Yeah.
I felt like it.
Yeah. So I'll let you finish the story.
I think after that,
Mm-hmm.
I think we went on our first date.
Yep.
Yeah, when our first date went to a movie and Applebee's. Was it Applebee's? Was it Applebee's or what is that?
Chili's.
Chili's.
It was Chili's. Yeah, it was Chili's.
Chili's. Yeah, we hung out at we went to movies and we hung out at Chili's.
Chili's.
And after that, we started talking on the phone a little bit more. Started seeing each other a little bit more, and then here we are.
Right.
Here we are.
And here we are.
Here we are.
Some
4 cars, 2 houses, and 2 kids later.
Exactly. And we still like each other.
Right.
We still love each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There was no stalking, though. That wasn't stalking.
Ladies, let me tell you something.
That was courting. Courting,
Ladies.
That's what it's called. It's called courting.
Ladies.
After all these years, the word has finally come out exactly what it is. It's called courting.
No.
Yes. Look it up in the dictionary,
Listen.
in Wikipedia, and look at what courting means, and you will see exactly what I did. Courting.
Slipping note after note.
Courting.
Under my door.
Courting.
This dude was relentless. Putting flowers on my truck.
Courting.
I was like, all right, let me just go ahead and give this dude a chance. Let's
Still owe me a
give
Pepsi.
him. Oh.
Yeah, you still owe me a Pepsi.
But listen, because I did
Still
say
owe
that.
me a Pepsi.
I did say.
Owe me a Pepsi. I've
Listen.
to get my Pepsi.
So listen, y'all. So when I said to myself, oh, he would make a very nice manager. You know what? He did all that for me. I'm going to buy him a Pepsi. So now the running joke is...
Never got my Pepsi.
But listen, you got a wife. You got, 2 houses. You got 4 cars. Kids. You got everything. You got the ultimate package.
Where's the Pepsi, though? Where's the Pepsi?
For real, though. You don't
It was
even drink
supposed to
Pepsi.
be a Pepsi.
I don't even drink Pepsi.
Okay, well, it could have been a ginger ale.
All right, whatever. So anyway, and here we are. We've been married almost 12 years. This September will make 12 years. And we actually got married 3 years to the day that we married, or we met.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so praise God. He's so good. So with that, I just want to kind of move into what we're going to actually talk more about on tonight, and that is, how did I tell you that I am a survivor of sexual violence? So after we have been dating for a few months, I would say about a few months, I started to realize that, hey, I think this is going somewhere. And with that, I felt like, okay, I have to tell the truth. I want to be completely honest with him, because I don't want anything to come up later down the line that might put our relationship in jeopardy. So I knew that I had to tell him that I had been sexually assaulted as a teenager, and then actually raped at 24 as a young adult. So I was like, oh my God. I don't want to tell him, because what if this turns him away? You know, what is the outcome going to be? And that fear just set in, because I just did not know what was going to happen. So I took a deep breath. I prayed. I asked the Lord to help me. I asked the Lord to give me strength to be able to have this conversation with him. So one day, I called him up and I said, listen, there's something that I got to tell you. And I'm sure he was probably shaking in his boots. Were you shaking in your boots, man?
I was not shaking in my boots.
Because, ladies, you know, when we call, our man and we're like, need to have conversation. There's something that we need to discuss. Normally, they're like, oh, Lord, what's going on now? Oh, boy, what's about to go down? So that's what I thought he was probably feeling. So we met up, and I just came out and told him I was very nervous. Everything within me was just like shaking all over. It was just going like crazy on the inside, but I knew that I had to get it out. And with the help of the Lord, I was able to tell him exactly what had happened to me during those times in very vivid detail, because of course this happened to me years ago. But when you're traumatized, you remember exactly what happened. Oftentimes you remember what happened just like it was yesterday, and it could have been 10, 20, 30, perhaps 40 years ago, but you remember it in vivid detail. So I was able to share with him what had happened. And after I got finished talking to him, I was just like, okay. I was just waiting for the shoe to drop. I was just waiting for him to tell me that I can't do this. I don't want to be here. You know, whatever the negative outcome that I thought was going to happen, I thought it was going to happen. But it didn't. As you can see, he's still here. So with that, Mr. Wharton, I have a few questions for you so that you can share some information with other significant others or spouses that may be watching. And maybe you can give them some information on how they can accept this conversation from their girlfriend or their wife or their significant other. So tell me, what was your initial thought after I'd shared this information with you that I was a survivor of sexual violence?
To be honest, I didn't have any initial thought. Like there was no thought pattern. There was no thought process of me going through any yay or nay on what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was just listening I was just listening to the story.
Okay.
And then after the story was over, I just processed the story. I didn't process. There was no process of what I was going to do. I didn't have. There was, to be honest, there wasn't a, am I going to go or am I going to stay? There was just processing the story itself.
Okay. Okay.
So it was. There was never a time where I was thinking, okay, all right, is this too much, or oh, I'm okay with this, or it wasn't none of that. It was just I hear the story, and okay.
Wow.
It wasn't, there was no thought process. It was just listening to the story. So after you told me the story, after you told me the experiences, then it was just like, okay. It was kind of like when you first meet somebody and they tell you all about themselves, and you decide whether or not you're going to be with them, but you have to take some of these things with that person.
Yeah.
So at that particular point in time, it was okay. Well, okay, she that was a traumatic experience in her life, and I know that it's going to play a role in the rest of her life. That was it.
That was it.
That was it. It wasn't nothing big. It wasn't nothing. I didn't go home and contemplate, what I was going to do. I wasn't contemplating in the car. I wasn't contemplating on the couch when you told me. It was like, okay, all right.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, do you think that it was easier for you to just accept it, so to speak, because you had already made up in your mind that you knew that you wanted to, be with me?
Yeah, yeah. It was already, yeah. It was already determined that that's where I wanted to be. So
Okay.
that didn't deter anything. It didn't stop anything. It didn't, it didn't mess anything up.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever you were thinking as you told me, nothing like that happened. 'Cause it was
No.
already determined that this is where I wanted to be. So
No matter what.
yeah, no matter what.
I like that. No matter what. so, so that brings us to the next question, which is, and I think we kind of touched on it, but if you want to elaborate a little bit more, why did you stay?
No, I stayed because I loved you.
Already?
Yeah.
Already?
Yeah, it was. I stayed because that's where I wanted to be. Um, and it wasn't nothing heroic, about it. It wasn't nothing like now I gotta protect her, or now I feel like I gotta be around to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. It wasn't nothing like that.
Okay.
It was, this is where I wanted to be. Period. So like I said, there was no process for me thinking about what I was going to do. I stayed because I wanted to stay. I stayed because it was about the relationship. It wasn't about any other outside influences or any other experiences. Or I mean, it could have been technically it could have been any story you could have told me. It didn't really matter.
Hmm. Oh, bless your heart. Whew. All right. Good answers. Good answers. But I know they're from the heart. I know they're from the heart. So, next question for you. What can you share with our listeners what life has been like being the husband or the spouse of a survivor?
Um, I think it's just been more about support,
Mm-hmm.
more about catering my activities toward supporting you and what you wanted to do. And even if you wasn't going to do anything, just more like support because it's it was an experience
Mm-hmm.
that you went through twice, and I knew it was going to be something that you thought about on more than just a seldom random basis because it was such an effect on you when it happened. Um, no matter what strides you took to get past it
Mm-hmm.
or to get over it or to deal with it, you still needed the support of whoever was going to be in your life at the time. So I couldn't not deal with it, or I couldn't put it on the back burner. I couldn't not think about it because it was a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
So it became a part of us.
Absolutely.
So I had to support that particularly
Mm-hmm.
because it was such an important part of who you were. Because if I didn't support it or if I didn't stay around, and I think this is what a lot of men or a lot of spouses, no matter what it is, no matter what kind of relationship that you in, don't understand that if you don't support it or
Mm-hmm.
you leave because of what you heard or you can't deal with it, it's kind of like, and it's going to sound harsh, but it's kind of like you're putting them through it again.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
kind of like you're putting them through the
Mm-hmm.
experience again
Mm-hmm.
because they told you about the experience
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't support it, you ran
Yeah.
away from it,
Mm-hmm.
and you have them thinking that now what I went through is going to be something that's going to keep me from this type of happiness for the rest of my life. So,
Mm-hmm.
so when you don't support it, then you're technically kind of making a relived experience all over again.
Yeah. Sort of
Right,
re-victimizing,
right,
us or them
right,
all over again.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Now tell me, what does you mentioned support? So tell
Hmm.
me, what does support look like, or what has support looked like in our marriage? Because some people may not know. There may be some people that are listening to this for the first time, and they're like, okay, well, what does support look like? How can I support him or her? What does that look like? So
So
can you share that?
support looked like being available for whatever they want to do. It doesn't have to necessarily be something tangible.
Hmm.
It's just that, well, I'll go into how support is with us. Um, when you decided that you wanted to start Phoenix Ministries and
Hmm.
you decided you wanted to write the book and you had some other ideas, it was whatever I could do at that particular moment to make it easier for you to do what you need to do. So if it
Yeah.
involves me having to watch the kids, it involves me having to show up to support at your events, or if it involves me having to sometimes have to, just play the background, um, and let you do you, um, let you go through the process of doing whatever you need to do, and I just take care of everything else around you.
Mhm.
That's what it called. Support was making you feel comfortable for you to be able to do what you need to do. That's what support is.
Amen.
Because you wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't support. Because everything else around you that I felt like you should be doing,
Mhm.
I would like, okay, well, you need to do this and you need to do that, which would take away from you doing what you needed to do for the ministry, or what you need to do for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and this in this process of empowering other
Mhm.
survivors.
Absolutely.
If you had to worry about the kids, or you had to worry about the house, you had to worry about
Mhm.
um, coming home and cooking dinner, or you had to worry about clothes here, or taking the kids to school, picking the kids up. I mean, anything you had to
Mhm.
worry about that could deter you from doing what you need to do, or stop you from doing what you need to do, that proved non-support. So any place that I had to be within the marriage above, what I was doing, anything I was doing is support.
Yeah. Awesome. You're very supportive, and I thank you. But I think it's very important to also share that support looks different for every survivor. This is a way that Darnell supports me in the things that I need to do, but perhaps for you as a survivor, it may look different. You may need someone to just listen to you as you share your story, or as you break your silence. You may need someone to come and pray with you. Support for you may be someone accompanying you to the police department when you file your report, or if you want to go to the doctor to be examined, or if you just want somebody to just hold your hand and not say anything. Support for everyone, every survivor is different, and I just wanted to take a moment to point that out. Okay, so let's see. Next question, sir. The next question is, what sort of challenges can you say that you have experienced in being married to a survivor? Have there been any challenges, or have there been like any difficult moments that we have had that we kind of worked through together, that you can think of, that you can maybe
Any
share?
challenges, or I can't really think of any. Well, I can't really think of any challenges. I know um, there were things that, and I guess the funny part is it wasn't a challenge for me, because being that you told me so early in the game, it was
Kind of
more
give you a
like,
heads up.
right. It was more like everything I experienced with you were just us getting to know each other.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any challenges where I would say you're like this because of this.
Mhm.
I didn't know that until you said that this is why I'm like this because
Mhm.
of this.
Mhm.
I just saw it as I'm getting to know this person, and I
Mhm.
didn't think that
Mhm.
your experiences that you had and you acting like this because of that. I was just looked at it as we're getting to know each other.
Yeah.
Um, so there was some, I guess, some control type issues that you were having, that I was just seeing it as
Oh
me just
goodness.
getting to know you, and that type of aspect. And you said it was because of your experiences, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I didn't see anything, any challenges or anything that was causing me to be like, oh, she's like that because of this.
Mhm.
I think another challenge that I do have, or did have,
Mhm.
that I worked through, if there is a challenge to talk about, is um, when we get into conversations about certain things and and society and life with the girls or whatever, and the conversation will kind of push itself toward the experience that you went through, and you were, and I had to understand that you were taking it there because you went through the experience.
Right.
Whereas I was like, why does it always have to go there? Why can't we? It seemed like you were going straight to the negative before we could even get there.
Yeah.
But then I had to realize that because of you went through the experience, that's where you're going to go.
Yeah.
So I had to realize that, okay, all right, well, now I get it. Now I get it, because at first I wasn't getting it, but now I get it. Is that your experiences causes your thoughts to automatically go somewhere and then come back.
Yeah.
Whereas I was like, why can't we be here and then
just
get there?
Right.
But with it, and we worked that out, and again, that was another way of me learning how you were and listening to what you were saying and what you were trying to get across, because it was traumatic experiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of like if somebody gets into a bad car accident, when they get into a car, they're not just going to get into a car and say, let's drive. They're going to go straight to the accident and think about the accident and then bring themselves back. Yeah. They're not going to jump right in a car and be like cool and chilling like I am, because I've never been in a bad accident. And if we get in the car and you've been in a bad accident, you're going to be like, yo, we can slow down, or, oh my God, don't go so close. And I'm like, why are you going there?
Right.
But you got to have to realize that the last time this person was in the car, something really bad happened to them.
Yeah.
So that's where they're going to go first, and they got to come back. And think about it is, I think a lot of people don't understand that about survivors when it comes to certain things. The survivor will go to what happened and take precautions or take measures or talk about that from the experience and bring it back down. Yeah. Whereas the people who don't have the experience are coming from the non-experience and getting there. So when they meet in the middle, and I think that's where I finally understood, because we met in the middle. Yeah. We met in the middle. And then from that point on, that's when I had to understand where we were. I think one of the things that I do, and I think this kind of happened after you told me, is I have an issue on when we're out and how long it takes you to go to the bathroom. That's an issue.
Well, what a way to put it out there, babe.
Well, not like that, but
I know where you're going, so right. So please elaborate.
I know
where you're going.
Like when we're out in public, you know, if you take a long time in the bathroom, I start to get a little bit worried, and I think that's probably a direct result of what you've told me and your experiences, because it's it's crazy dudes out here. Yeah. It's crazy people. So you don't know exactly what could possibly have gone on, because it happens so fast. It can happen so quick. Yeah. So
like if I'm in the bathroom, like your anxiety level starts to go up after like a certain amount of minutes. If I'm not out yet. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And if I could kind of go back a little bit to when you brought up the control issues, the issues of control that you experienced with me, I really, really learned a lot about myself and the experience and the aftermath of the symptoms of the experience as we have been married, because I discovered where the actual control issues came from, because I didn't quite put it all together until a few years later. So for those of you who do not know, rape, sexual violence, sexual abuse, it's about power and control. It's not about sex. the perpetrator um, likes to be in control, takes control of the person that they are violating. So, in that, we as survivors lose our power and we lose our control. So, it's important to us to not be back in that space again, because if we feel like we lose control of situations and we don't know what's going to happen next and we're feeling vulnerable, then our anxiety level goes up, fear kicks in, panic kicks in, and we just completely lose all control. So at all times, we feel like we need to know where everybody is, what's happening next, no surprises. I need to be in control of everything. And when we first got together, that's how I was. I didn't like surprises. I would go off if he tried to surprise me with anything. There were times where, we would go out to restaurants and I would have to sit with my back um, where I could see the door, where I could see windows, where I could see people, because I needed to know who was coming in, who was going out. Not that I knew those people, because I didn't, but I needed to know what was going on at all times, and I need to know, like, how can I escape if something goes down. Right? We had a big issue. I had a big issue with crowds. Um, didn't like to go to the AFRAM. Didn't like to go to any of those like spaces where there was a lot of people in closed quarters. Didn't like that. And that was because I couldn't control the crowd. So that made me anxious and that made me fearful. So I would tell him, no, I'm not going. We're not going to that. Or if we did just happen to go because we were out, I'd be like, okay, 5 minutes is enough for me. We out. Let's go. But I've grown so much since then, and I've healed so much since then that I'm actually able to now go out to AFRAM and go out to Artscape and go to restaurants and not be so concerned with my back being against the wall where I can see the door and everybody. So thank God for healing and deliverance. Amen.
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 Amen. So one last question for you, but of course you got to stay with me on the show while we talk a little bit more. But for you, one last question. Is there anything that you would like to, any message or any words of encouragement or empowerment that you may want to leave with spouses that are married to survivors? Anything you want to kind of share with them to kind of encourage them or empower them?
Well, I think I already mentioned it as far as when you don't support, how it makes them feel, or what happens. Basically, all I can say is, um, if this is the person that you know you're going to be with, then support them in every way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Support them, and it could be something minute, it could be something large. I mean, you never know what it is, but the support is what's needed, because at the end of the day, the the work that they have done to get them to where they are now,
Yes.
the
Yes.
therapy or the prayers or whatever they needed to get them to where they are now, is predicated on the fact that they'll be able to continue that because they have somebody in their life that will allow them to do that. If this person that you're with, y'all developed a relationship, and then they tell you,
Mm-hmm.
and then you stop dealing with them, it could push them back into a space where they fought so hard to get from.
Yeah.
So now they're back to where they are because they felt like I told them something about me and it ran them off. So should I not tell anybody anymore? Should I not be vocal about it? And that's one of the major things that survivors need um, in their therapy, to be able to talk about it. Because once they talk about it and it gets out, the healing starts.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're pushed back into a role of not talking and keeping it bottled up,
Mm-hmm.
then now they're internalizing everything.
Yes.
And the war is now back inside of them instead of outside of them, where it should be, where they can heal. So it's kind of hard if this is something that you can't deal with, then I suggest that when they tell you, you really figure out why is it you can't deal instead of just walking away.
That's good, babe.
You figure out why you can't deal, so you can explain to them why you can't deal with it. And if y'all can't work it out from there, then that's understandable. But to just up and walk away without no explanation, just leaving the person that told you their own way of thinking about why you left, it's going to be counterproductive for them. It's going to be counterproductive for them. Find out why you can't do it and explain to them why you can't. I can't deal with this because maybe I went through it.
Yeah.
Or I can't deal with this because I'm just not built that way to deal with that type of trauma. Or whatever it is, tell them that. Don't just leave. But in all means, if you're in a relationship with somebody that you love, then support them.
Yes, support is so key. Such a key element to healing. Absolutely, because oftentimes we feel like we're alone. But if we have that support system, then it makes it that much more easier to be able to heal.
Right.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to know that if you are in a relationship with a survivor, there are some red flags that you may experience that could kind of tell you that he or she may have had the experience. And it could be if they cringe when it's time to be intimate, if they get angry when it's time to be intimate, if they don't want to be touched, if there are certain things they don't want to do. Oftentimes, survivors who have not yet received healing or therapy, they can sometimes be angry, depressed, have suicidal thoughts, and have maybe attempted suicide. Oftentimes when we don't talk about it, we turn to self-medication in the form of drugs and alcohol. So there's a lot of different factors, a lot of different red flags that you could kind of look for. Now, I'm not saying that every person that you're dating or everyone that you have been in a relationship with that have had some of these symptoms or red flags are survivors of sexual violence. But I just want you to be mindful and kind of keep an open mind about these things, because it very well could be that that's why they are, acting or reacting in the way that they are. So just kind of keep that in mind. So at this time, I would like to say thank you, baby, for the information that you have shared. You've been very, very helpful. You shared a great perspective from the point of the spouse of a survivor. And I really feel that our listeners and our viewers will really gain some insight and really gain some encouragement from the words that you have shared. But you got to stay with me, because now I want to take a moment to kind of give some tips and some tools on how survivors can tell their significant other that they have had the experience. So the first thing that I did was actually just really, really had to acknowledge that I had the experience. Like, although I've had it, I didn't really own up to it at one point. It was just like, okay, it happened. I know I got to do this. I know I got to do that. But sometimes you don't own up to it. But as a survivor, the first thing that you have to do is acknowledge that you have had the experience, because oftentimes we just try to suppress it and we try to act like it didn't happen, and we just hope that it goes away. But it never goes away. It just doesn't just go away. It never dissolves. It never dies. It's always there. And especially if you don't acknowledge it, you don't speak about it, you don't break your silence, again, it turns into other things like I just mentioned, the depression, suicidal thoughts and attempts, the self-medication, the drugs, the alcohol, the promiscuity. It turns into all of those things. But in terms of having a conversation with your significant other about your sexual violence experience, the first thing you should do is acknowledge that it happened. Okay? And then the next thing I would suggest, and what I did, was pray about it, because it takes a tremendous amount of courage to muster up the strength to have this conversation. And it's not something that you can rightly do on your own. Yeah, go and take a swig. It's not something that you can, rightly do on your own. Pray and ask the Lord to give you the strength and the courage to be able to sit down and have this conversation with your significant other. That's exactly what I did. I prayed about it first. The other thing that I would like to share would be timing is everything. I know you've heard that before, but timing is everything. And I say that because you don't want to have this kind of conversation when the game is on. You do not want to have this conversation when the game is on. Let's see, he's taking another swig. You don't want to have this conversation when, his favorite movie is on, or her favorite movie is on, Lifetime, whatever. You don't want to have this conversation when there could be major distractions, because you need to have his or hers 100% of their attention. Because this is a very, very important conversation. So you need them to be fully engaged. So timing is everything. Make sure you pick the proper time to have this conversation. And then the other thing that I want to share is be okay with what the outcome is. Sometimes we have set in our mind, like I had set in my mind what his reaction was going to be. I honestly thought he was going to leave. I did, because our initial thought is normally the negative. It's very rarely the positive. So initially I thought, okay, I'm going to tell him and he's going to leave. But I got to tell him. No matter what the outcome is, I have to tell him. So what I want to stress to you, you all, is be okay with what the outcome is. If he or she does leave, be okay with it, because that's how they are feeling in that moment, and you have to respect what their decision is. You might not like it, but you have to respect what his or her decision is. But if they really love you and they truly want to be with you, then they will stay and they will help you get through it. You'll get through it together. Now, it's been 20 years since the last sexual assault that I experienced back in November of 1996. So Darnell has been with me for almost 14 years.
15.
Almost
15 years.
Yeah, do the math, y'all. So he's been with me for the bulk of my healing process, because he made up in his mind that this is where he was going to be no matter what. So you've experienced a lot day in and day out helping me get through my healing process, and I'm so grateful that you decided to stay. And I was okay with the outcome. Mm-hmm. I was okay with the outcome. So, in closing, everybody, actually, before we close, is there anything you want to add before we go into the closing?
No, not really. No? There's nothing. Nothing this is pretty add? Good. This is pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty great. It was great.
I think one of the things that...
Oh, there's something. Okay.
Yeah, something. There is something. To spouses, allow yourself to deal with things. Allow yourself to work through certain feelings and certain actions, and because if you're feeling overwhelmed about some things, or you're feeling you have certain feelings about some things, allow yourself to work through that. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to be Hercules or a hero and like, I got it, I'm doing it. Allow yourself to be able to, get yourself in a place to be able to deal with things, because if you're not okay, then you can't be okay for the other person. Um, yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I still have not read her book yet.
Still haven't read the book
I
yet.
still have not read the book yet. But that's something I'm dealing with. That's something I got to put myself in a place to be able to read it. There's a certain thing about hearing it, and there's a certain thing about reading it. And I don't know what my hang up is about reading it, but I'm not going to force myself on it. The book's not going nowhere. The book is there.
Nope.
The book is where it is, not going nowhere, so I'm not going to force myself to read it. I basically kind of know what's in it, but, I just haven't brought myself to read it yet. But, that doesn't stop my support of her. That's something that I'm dealing with on my own. And one day it's probably going to hit me to just sit down and read the book. But, like I said, I probably know a lot that's already in it, but to sit and actually read it, I mean, I'm going to have to read my wife's book.
Yes.
I'm going to have to read it eventually.
Read it.
But, this is my, my way of dealing with certain things. And what's going on with me, to be able to sit down and actually read it from her words, put down on a book that's helping people. So, allow yourself to get to a point where you're okay with everything that's going on, because it can be anxiety on your part too. Especially after, like, some people probably couldn't hear every time the story of what happened. I mean, it was the first time I heard it when she told me, but I still hear it every time we go out, or every time she speaks somewhere, or, somebody's, says to her, your story or whatever, decided to do what you want to do. But yeah, just deal with your part first, and then you'll be able to support better.
Absolutely. Good stuff, babe.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So, this episode has been I Too Deserve Love. So, as survivors, we too deserve love. And this is one of the truths that I learned in surviving sexual violence. Oftentimes we feel like we're damaged goods, like nobody's going to ever love us anymore. But our family loves us, our friends love us, our significant others or spouses, they love us as well. But most of all, God loves us. And God's love is the ultimate love. It's never failing. It's always there. It's an unconditional love. So please, please, always, always remember that. I thank you so much, Mr. Darnell Keith Wharton, for being on the show on tonight, and for being so supportive of all that I do to help others, and just to be a supportive husband and a great, great daddy overall. Amen.
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 Thank you so much for tuning in to the Angela D. Wharton Show. Again, I am your host, Angela D. Wharton, and please, please be sure to subscribe to the show on SoundCloud, and also subscribe to our channel on YouTube so that you do not miss any episode once it's uploaded. You will get a notification when the upload is complete. Please subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter at Angela_empowers. Also on Instagram at Angela_empowers. I'm also on Facebook under Angela D. Wharton. Please, please find me there. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you again. God is love. Peace.